And about 6 months after I stopped drinking, we went and did this show in a place, Harmony, Minnesota. It was a music festival called Shangri La, which is means paradise, right? In Hindi, I think. Um, and it's yeah, it was this paradise like festival. There's a lot of like spiritual symbolism that happened throughout this conversion that has been I've been unpacking for the last 15 years. But I went to this music festival, and my bandmates, we started drinking some whiskey. So I kind of, started drinking just that night, and just thought it's not a big deal, but I had some whiskey. But then some of my bandmates started going off and doing some other drugs and whatnot. And I remember at one point I was hanging out with somebody, and they're like, "Do you want some cocaine?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to do cocaine. I've never done cocaine. I never want to do cocaine." And so I went back to our little van, camper or whatever. I'm having more whiskey with a bandmate, and I don't know why, but I went back out and I was hanging out with the guy who owned. Well, I probably shouldn't. I think he's actually deceased now, which is crazy. But he was a guy that owned one of the major studios in Minnesota, and he was a friend of mine. So this guy's a multimillionaire, and we're hanging out in his like semi trailer thing. And he was like, "You want some cocaine?" And for whatever reason, I was like, "Sure." And just proceeded to do a bunch of cocaine that night. And but it was interesting because in looking back, because I had been drinking and doing cocaine, like the chemical mix in your brain, they don't cancel each other out like one for one. Just kind of, but they do fight against each other as a depressant and a stimulant, and just kind of like the experience of it was really interesting. But it was certainly still a very uh, you know full cocaine experience, if you can say that. But what happened is later that night, I just kind of went on this binge, and later that night, the um, I was walking through the music festival. I get emotional like every time I tell this story, but um, I was walking through the music festival and walking with some friends, and I just heard this voice kind of in my heart, and it just said, "David, where are you?" You know, and the it wasn't like a sound. It was just these words that were almost like heart audio, if that makes sense. It was like words and an experience of words that were imprinting into my heart, like a handprint on your chest. You know what I mean? And It's just, "David, where are you?" And it was just like the exact same thing that God says to Adam, in the Garden of Eden after, and it was the most loved I think I've ever felt in my life or had felt up to that point, just in those words. And immediately I felt completely sober. And I literally stopped. I stopped walking. Everybody I was walking with probably forgot I was walking with them, and just kept walking, disappeared. And I just realized suddenly, like, I need to get out of here. Like, I need to change.